Puerto Rico, una tierra de belleza, de ritmo y de sabor. Last time around, I told you that this island has been home to countless Jews for more than 500 years. But Puerto Rico carries another story too. A story of resistance, of hidden identities, of people who resisted the Spanish Empire and the Inquisition. And now we're stirring those memories back into the pot, letting their aroma rise and bringing a fresh serving of arroz to the table. Joined not only by Puerto Ricans, but also with the crypto-Jewish brothers and sisters we've met along the way, and by those who have chosen to walk with us, learn with us, and reclaim with us. From the island to the diaspora, from the descendants of the Anusim to the friends and family who've joined this movement, their journeys, their stories, their truths all come together here. So make room, porque la mesa has grown. This is the next chapter in the living, unfolding story of Spanish Jewry. You're watching Arroz con Devorah. Hi everyone, Visiata Dishmaya. Welcome to another edition of Arroz con Devorah. And if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing so that you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes and the incredible guests we have lined up. And today's guest I'm very excited for. He's a Moroccan-Israeli novelist, poet, and translator whose work is known for its lyrical, nonlinear style and deep exploration of Sephardi identity. Born in Tetuan and raised in Israel, he writes across Hebrew, Spanish, English, blending memory, history, and imagination in a way that feels both intimate and universal. His acclaimed Tetuan Trilogy examines exile, migration, and the echoes of the Sepharad across the generations. Benarroch is the recipient of the Prime Minister's Prize of Literature, is widely regarded as one of the most important contemporary Sephardic voices. I'd like to welcome to this show, Mois Benarroch. How are you, Mois?
Hello, I'm okay.
Did I get all your fun facts correct?
Yeah.
So, Mois, I have to tell you, when I first saw you, it was on Facebook, and I immediately gravitated to you were posting little excerpts of your work. And I said, Mamash, Mois's writing really sounds like he's saying our story in reverse, in Rebe, right? And I want to talk to you about your upbringing, your background, because I think it's very fascinating. Because to me, you represent, like, we both come from the expulsion story, but we go two different ways. And so many of us who are new to this channel know the way of the conversos that stood in Spain and later on into the Caribbean. And you represent the migration that went off into Morocco. But what I think is so unique, and I've been seeing this more and more with a lot of people that I speak to, especially who are in the position that you guys were, is that after 500 years, much like ourselves, you still have this deep longing and this deep trauma that has remained after 500 years as a result of the expulsion. I want to kind of get into that, your upbringing, and I'm very excited to hear all of it. So Mois, take it away.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I grew up until the age of 13 in Morocco, and the thing that comes to mind that we didn't speak about the expulsion of the Sephardim from Spain. It was there all the time when I look back. But it was there in the relation with the Spanish Christians. Yes, from what I was born after the independence of Morocco, so it's not under the protectorado of the Spanish. That is the experience of my parents, and there is a strong relationship with the new Spanish community that in my books you will see in my books that's the book that started my search, Keys to Tetuan. Is it in English? And when I started searching, I started going back, and then I go back to 1860 when the Spanish army conquers Tetuan. And that is the first encounter of the Spanish and the Sephardim.
Wow.
From there, they will start to, they discovered a community that kept speaking Spanish. It is called Jaquetia now, but it is Spanish of the 15th century, adapted a bit to Arabic and Spanish and Hebrew words. Maybe these Hebrew words were already in some kind of Judeo-Spanish that was spoken in the 15th century or 14th century. There is no knowledge if there was a specific Spanish of the Jews, but then they started to investigate, and that year there are already works in the University of Granada already with these Spanish people that left, and they were not in touch for hundreds of years.
And that's why I think today's meeting with us almost represents the Spanish people coming back together. We were both from two sides. And I find this a lot where our community is now starting to touch base with the other side of the community. And I know for myself, one of the first times that happened was in 2019, and I was in Gibraltar. And that community, when they had learned, I had a magazine article that came out in Mishpacha, I think maybe 2016, 2017. It was 2019, and they still were holding on to a physical copy of that magazine, of that article. And when they heard that I was in Spain, they asked me to come down, and I was able to speak twice. And Mamash, before I even came out with the book, The Last Anusa, which was my debut memoir, they had asked me to speak. And that was the first time that I was really telling the story. But it was also the first time that I was seeing how much, like you said, it's not an everyday conversation, but the stain of the expulsion was so heavy with the community that you can feel the pain. It was very palpable. And I thought, wow, like we were not the only ones who were affected. When you're out of touch for that many years, you wonder naturally, did this side forget about us? Did they forget about what happened? Have they moved on? Is it, a chapter that's, we've turned the page on? And I have to say that each and every time I meet someone from the other side of the expulsion story, I see this same longing and desire and heartbreak that's still echoing. And it's a tremendous universal feeling of exile, even though many of us either live in Eretz Israel, we have the ability to go to Eretz Israel, but it's almost like there's still something that has never been made quite right since the expulsion. Do you feel that, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't. There was. It's a big break. It's a big catastrophe for the Jews from Spain. Yes, but I think that they started to reclaim their Judaism 200 years, more or less 200 years after the expulsion, and they became an elite in the Jewish even in Morocco. In Morocco, there was for hundreds of years they were called the Megorashim, the expelled, and the Toshavim, the settlers. Yeah, the Megorashim were those who came from Spain. The Megorashim, they are. And they became the elite. There was a big discussion for hundreds of years about the halacha of the shechita, the slaughtering of animals, and basically, and in the halachic point of view, the Jews of Spain after 100 to 200 years, they took the lead. Although it's hard to say that there's a big difference between Moroccan Jews and Sephardi Jews. Before the expulsion, because there is already the Jews that came in 1391. There were pogroms against the Jews in Spain, and many of them went to Morocco. And then there were also rabbis that went from Morocco to Spain all the time,
Right.
even in 1400 in the
Yes.
15th century. And the people who traveled. So the difference is not big, but there were differences. There were different synagogues. And at a certain moment, this difference disappeared, especially in Fez. Fez was the center of the Sephardic Jews.
Yeah, I
And,
literally have ancestors that were in Fez. So
in
that's why
Fez,
I
yeah,
found it like very
Fez,
interesting.
because in Fez is the beginning of the Mellah. The Juderia, they brought the Juderia from Spain. They wanted a quarter of their own
Right.
to be protected. Yes, and generally these quarters, the Melach were near the king, the king or the representative of the king in that city.
Yeah.
Fez was the capital at the time. And in Fez they suffered a lot because of that.
Yeah.
Because when they wanted to throw the king, they attacked the Jews. The Jews were protected by the king. So to prove that the king couldn't protect them, they were attacked. That's one of the reasons they were attacked. But Tetuan is a very, very, very special place because first of all, it's only a community of Sephardim, and it's the closest city to Spain.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
closest city were Jews settled after the expulsion, and I think I say that they were the most optimistic Jews. They thought they would come back. Now, one of the things that I say that is very discussed, or people don't want to hear it, as the Tetuan is actually a city that was it existed before, but it was deserted in the beginning of was 3 times deserted, and in the beginning of the 15th century, the 1420, it was deserted, left. It was a pirate city because it's near the sea and not in the sea. It's 6 kilometers from the sea. That's 4 miles, and the Jews started to come very close to the expulsion, or even in the 15th century, and the 16th century, and the beginning of the 17th century. And those who come from the 17th century are conversos, anusim, that went through a process of Christianity, of Catholicization. And then there is a lot of customs that are like when someone dies, the parents die, they wear black. That is Catholic influence. Nobody spoke about that. I know that from reading. And even today they say, no, it's not that, it's not that. No, that's impossible, it's impossible. But they came through Portugal, probably through Portugal, and like the one who came to Amsterdam, then they, in certain moment in the beginning of the 17th century, they came to Morocco, either to Fez. There was one very, very rich trader that is called Roti, Joseph Roti, and he had boats, and he brought the Jews to the Jews that were already crypto Jews. They were partly Jews, and because in Portugal during the 17th century you could be half a Jew. It was easier than in Spain. You could be a Christian on Sundays and Jew on Saturdays. Yeah, there was more or less, but like Spinoza, who went to Amsterdam, these people went through a process of becoming Christian. Yes, and they were people who were born to crypto Jewish families, so they had to hide part of their identity, and they had to be Christian outside, and they didn't know everything. So in the 16th, 17th century, there is a process of klita, of integrating these Jews into the Moroccan communities, which is something that didn't happen in the Ottoman Empire. Yes. And the Gibraltar community that you speak about is a community from Tetuan, mostly from Tetuan and Tangier. Yes,
yes.
And you'll find exactly the same surnames. Yes.
Yes. And I was surprised. You know, my last name, Ivel, is Levy, right to left, right? And that's exactly what I was finding there. Levy's, I found a whole,
Well, the Levi, well, Levi is everywhere. The
yeah,
Levi
that's
is
true.
everywhere. Yes,
that's,
yeah.
That's true.
Although the Ashkenazim, they are Levi, they are Levinsky, Levinson, Levin. They're not only Levi most of the time. Yes,
right.
The Levi are Sephardim. Yes.
So, I find what I find like very interesting as a writer, like I know for myself, when I started the Watchmen series, it really came from this deep longing to really start restoring what happened to us on our side post expulsion through the guise of a story, right? Through a straight, novel style story. I'm curious as to, and you'll probably feel the same, maybe you won't. It is a very emotionally overwhelming undertaking that, at least in my experience, was. What made you get into writing this? Because this is a very specific history.
Yeah.
And you need what I find very, so if anyone's unfamiliar with Mois's work, I will tell you that it's highly artistic. But what I will tell you is that in reading it, it literally sounds, and I've spoken about this on this show and publicly on other platforms, about how when my family spoke to me and when they were trying to transmit any of this information, it always sounded like they were speaking poetry live. It was very coded, very artistic, almost romantic, and you had to string it together over the course to kind of understand the story they were telling you. And I felt an immediate connection to your writing style because it reminded me so much of the way that my grandmother and her family spoke to me about anything that they wanted to convey when it came to this subject. What made you get into it? Because I feel like there's always this, build up that leads to, writing, I feel like is an exorcism of all the emotions you have internally, right? But you're doing it in such a poetic style. Is this, what you also experienced as far as the way the stories were converted over to you? How did you get into this writing in this genre and this style particularly?
Oh, this style specifically. Well,
I say it only because it mirrored so much. It mirrored so much the way my family spoke to me that I really felt like my grandparents were speaking to me.
Basically, I was trying not to write a poetic novel.
Because, and maybe that's what it is. And maybe that's what it is.
That's very funny. I gave up because I am a poet. Basically, I'm a poet. My first books published were poetry. I've published 20 books of poetry. And I have it here. I put it here. The Immigrant's Lament. It's my first book. My first published book is The Immigrant's Lament. It's a poetry book. It was published.
You'd find a place in Puerto Rico. You would find a place easily.
Yes, and well, in Israel, it's interesting. In Israel, I don't find a place because Israel doesn't recognize that it is a country of immigrants.
Yeah,
I have a poem in the country of immigrants. I'm still an immigrant.
Yeah,
because we are returning to our land.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when I published this book, indeed, they criticized me as an anti-Zionist because I used the word mehager.
Yeah.
Mehager, immigrant.
Yeah.
And not ole.
Yeah.
Ole, in Israel, you say ole is someone who goes up. He climbs to Israel. And to this, the experience in Tetuan is an experience. There is an experience of colonialism, but it is a very strange colonialism for the Jews, because they spoke the language of the colonizator.
Colonizers, yeah? Right? Yeah.
Colonizer, yeah. And the Jews in Tetuan, they were Spanish. They became Spanish. They were very, very Spanish
Mamash,
immediately.
we had this same thing in 1898 when America took over. It's funny, in 1850, Spain is defeating your side, and in 1898, they're losing to the Americans and they're losing the Caribbean. And we had this same experience where they were trying to impose the English language into Puerto Rico. And many resisted, even though there are many that speak both sides of the both English and Spanish. By and far, Puerto Rico is very Spanish. The Spanish essence is alive and well still. And there were many of our, even my grandparents who, they were Spanish, and you feel that influence of Spain still to this day. So it's very interesting because I'm telling you, Amash, the experience is so parallel. It's like hard to believe. It's mind blowing the similarities.
Yeah, okay, but the thing is that the start of this Keys to Tetuan Trilogy is connected to my Aliyah, my coming to Israel in 1972. Now, when I come in 1972, everybody was telling me, "You don't look Moroccan. You don't look Moroccan. You don't look Moroccan." Yeah. At first, it was funny. My mother, remember, don't say you are Moroccan. Say you are Spanish. And there is a writer, Nina Pinto Abecassis, who died very young, and she went to do a PhD on Haketia, on the Haketia language. And she went to her mentor and she said, "I am from Spain. I am from Tetuan, from Spain." And her mentor said, "Let's look at the map." And that's the first time that she understood that Tetuan is in Morocco. It's not in Spain.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you,
she was already 30 years old.
This is the same. This is the same thing. They considered themselves Spanish, like they were Spanish.
Completely Spanish.
Yes.
More, but not really. Okay. That is my father. He was born in 1917, just at the end of the First World War, and my mother was born in 1933. And my mother always felt that she wanted to go to Israel. She felt that was not her country, and she wanted in 1948. She wanted to go to a kibbutz. My father, he was the complete assimilated Jew to the Spanish world. He was completely Spanish. He went to study in Sevilla in 1935. He went to study right. Derecho. ¿Cómo dice derecho? To be a lawyer, yeah.
Oh, abogado.
Abogado, yes. So there are different, but generally the people, they felt Spanish. But anyway, before the Spanish went in the 19th century, they were affiliated to all kind of embassies. They didn't really trust neither the Spanish, neither the Moroccans. They asked for protection.
Yeah.
My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, he had English protection, yeah. And I think Dutch protection. My other grandfather, etc., etc. No, so when I come to Israel, it was a complete shock because I'm coming from a Jewish community,
right,
to a Jewish community, but these are Israelis. These are not Jews. I mean, really, it was surprising,
yeah,
to see people traveling Shabbat in the car.
Yeah.
But we were seeing them from the car.
Yeah.
Understand? Because in Tetuan, we will all go to the synagogue in Shabbat. Every Shabbat, everybody was in the synagogue. Then maybe from time to time, we also went to the sea in the car. Not often, but we did it also. There was some kind of adapting to the
Yeah.
new world. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was very surprising. Then it used to be funny. This thing was, I'm not Moroccan. You are Moroccan. Don't look Moroccan. I didn't look Moroccan because I arrived in 1972. It was after a very, very, very strong oppression of the Moroccan Jews in Israel, and what I call it de-education of a complete community who came from a great education of the Alliance, which was also a westernized education, yes, but that was taken from them, and then it started. Everything was taken from us. Even the Sephardi part was taken from us. You go to Israel, you say the Moroccan and Sephardi, or most of them. I think most of them are Sephardi or partly Sephardi, and they say no. they compare you to the Iraqi Jews,
Right.
which you can call Arab Jews, Mizrahi Jews, and so there is this part of the northern, the Tanjawis, and they say, well, we are not like the Moroccans. You have to say that we are not. We are like the Moroccan. We are the Moroccan. Yes, we are. We are different in some things. We are not different in other things. But in Israel, you are Moroccan, and that's all. And then I started publishing in literary reviews, and I was quite famous at a very young age, and I was writing in Hebrew, which is a kind of miracle, I would say. I don't know. I studied Hebrew in Morocco, but I started publishing 6 years after my aliyah. I started publishing poetry in Hebrew and in the best magazines and stuff. But when I came to publish a book, there was a complete boycott out of the publishing houses.
Yeah.
The big one, the small ones,
This is
which
what we
continue.
call the gatekeepers, Mois. And this is why
The gatekeepers, yeah,
yeah,
and
this is why self-publishing, I really, I mean, you have to really know your stuff, right? Because there's editing and it's not just spell checking. There's flow, there's cadence. But this is why self-publishing is really like
well, I
exploded
know
in the last
I
few
didn't
years.
self-publish. Finally, I did find a publisher. There's Yaron Golani published 6 of my book. It was a marginal publisher, not exactly, but I did find it. And I was at the time you couldn't self-publish.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I'm talking about the 80s, and I
Where the
was very,
gatekeepers were
very
really strong.
yes, and no, they asked, some of them asked for money. Where is Stutburn? I was very stubborn not to pay for publishing.
Good for you.
Yeah, I said no, I don't pay. No, I don't want to pay. If you want to publish, you publish. And there were some who went, but they wanted me to pay for the vanity, some kind of vanity publishing.
Yeah, exactly.
It was not exactly vanity publishing, but there was some criteria, but I didn't accept that until I published in 1994. I published the book, The Immigrant's Lament, Hinata Me'ager, and it was very well received. But there were articles in the press, and there were interviews in television, in the radio, and but
How did that strike you? I have to say, like, how did that strike you? Because I feel like your writing, it's coming from such a great place. How did you deal with that kind of fallout from your writings? Did you feel it was misunderstood? Did you feel like
it was completely misunderstood. It was treated as some kind of marginal folklore that is entering the literature. Yes, that is threatening the Israeli literature.
yeah,
By the way, yes. I am seen like some kind of revolutionary, but yes, maybe I am in Israeli literature. Yes, there was Erez Beaton, which won the Israel Prize now, He's a magnificent poet, and he was very much attacked for writing about these things. Like I said, there was many attacks writing about these things that you shouldn't speak about. I mean, the concept of the Moroccan, the Mizrahi, is that they were 2,000 years in the diaspora, and they waited for Zionists to come and rescue them. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There was where they lived in caves or something like that. I don't know where they lived. Yes, and there I started to ask myself, why is that? Who am I? Because for a long time I didn't remember Morocco. The shock was so strong. The shock of the Aliyah was so strong. I didn't remember anything. And there was some treatment, some imagery treatments that I did, and I started to remember. That's when I started to investigate what happened to this community, why this community is. And that's where I started to write Keys to Tetuan. Yes, that's in the 1990s. It was published. Interestingly, it was published in December 1999. Just before the year 2000. And after I wrote Keys to Tetuan, and I think it's interesting. You say artistic, yes, it's artistic. It's poetic. I wanted to write a prose that was not poetic. I said the poetry is for poetry and the prose is for prose.
But it's funny. This is why I say, like, and I sent you out a personal message, like, with the right producer and director, you could see it as a telenovela, right? But what I say that it's a poetic prose is because, Mamash, I kid you not, I really felt like my grandmother was speaking to me. If I had closed my eyes and let the voice be my grandmother's voice, it was the exact way she spoke to me. And I have tried so many times to convey to people when I talk about how the Anusim tell over their stories. And if I could quantify it, I would say read this trilogy. I'm only through book 1, and I have to tell you that it stood out. That stood out to me, the writing prose. And there was a specific, and I think this was towards the middle, and then there was something else towards the end when they were looking for Fatima. But there was something you had said right before that, and it was about these Jews that were in the mountains of Morocco. They were armed and unreachable, and I nearly fainted, because this is exactly what I say about my family and many of my family members. We were in the mountains, and these were remote places. And many of them, if not all of them, are armed and unreachable. That was the exact way I would describe it. So I found it.
Well, your family, what was your family?
So they are in Puerto Rico, and and a lot of these communities that since the expulsion, when they landed in Puerto Rico, they were up in the mountains, and it's not an easy place to reach. Till this day, it's not easy to reach. And a lot of it is frozen in time. A lot of the minhagim that the Rabbanim have able to get knowledge of, they say are being held to a medieval standard. So these were literally pockets of Puerto Rico that were just untouched.
I ask you, you were in a community of conversions?
So when I was born, I was first generation in America. So just to give you a little background, and anybody else who doesn't know the background of Puerto Rico was under Spanish rule until 1898. So from the time of the expulsion until 1898, this was a Spanish colony. In 1898, right after they were defeating, on that side of the world, they were losing the Caribbean, they were losing parts of South America, and they were losing the Philippines. Yeah. When the transition took over, when America came in, there was an immediately they came in with the intention to quell any rebels. Now, this is actually recorded in the Senate, the U.S. congressional records, and they talk about how the people banded together. And we're talking about people from the mountains, the Native American, everyone banded together to expel Spain out, right? And from there was a hope that Puerto Rico could be independent. That did not happen. Till this day, Puerto Rico is the only Spanish nation under foreign rule. It does not rule itself. It's a commonwealth of the U.S.
Yeah, okay.
There was an immediate and brutal takeover. They started with that. So you have the revolution in 1898. And then even as early as 1950, they bombed their own citizens. Now, there are pictures that are out there. These things are so horrific. Many of them parallel images of the Nazi regime. And I'm saying this, I'm just putting you what the history is. So there was for the Judíos that were there. So back then there was a law. You could not even say anything about Puerto Rican independence. You couldn't even say anything about free Puerto Rico. It was illegal. You could not even fly a flag. So there was this immediate culture of silence impressed upon them. And many of them came over to the mainland against the wishes of their family. So even that was another, when they decided to split, that was another upheaval within their own story. When they came, there was such a culture of silence that, and I've spoken to many people who have the same background, and they also experienced this where the parents just did not feel free to talk. Till this day, many of our grandparents' age, their generation, that participated in these revolutions, especially in 1950, still have FBI files open on them. Many of them were exiled again. So this was a whole history that is just now being unearthed and being spoken about.
Yes,
so there was like
aware.
a double silence put on us when we came here. So it was very difficult for me, especially, to get people to talk. Now there seems to be a breaking of that. The older that my grandmother's generation gets, there seems to be this ease. Like, what else do we have to lose? We're already going back to the true world. So you see that they're starting to open up more and more. Many of us are going back to the island and unearthing concrete evidence of these communities. And it's very exciting. But because they are so remote, this is not, there is mountains and then there's them, right? And in the mountains, you could probably get a hotel, maybe, right? Where they are located, every square inch is privately owned, and you better have a reason to be there. So it's not just some place that you can go. It's not even some place that you can accidentally get lost. You have to know the specific location. And it's not easy to get to. You will be hours traveling getting to these locations.
Yeah, I see. I wasn't aware of all these. Yeah, I must say that when I started researching the story of the Jews, the Sephardi Jews, there was no internet. Yeah, I'm talking about the 1990s.
Exactly. You're a real trailblazer, Freddie.
Yeah, I read everything that I could, every research that I could, and there wasn't even talk. There wasn't even anything about the Brazilian community of Manaus, which is made of also Moroccan Sephardi from Tetuan and Tangier in Manaus in the Amazonas. It was like something like fiction. It was completely fiction. The people spoke something about. They spoke. There were some speaking of the pirates, the Jewish pirates.
Now we have a lot of that.
Yeah, we have now a lot of that. And this Brazilian community, there are 300,000 descendant of Jews, because they didn't marry Jews. They went from Morocco at the age of 13. Some stayed, some didn't stay. Actually, my two great grandparents, both of them, went to work in Belém and Manaus, and they had the Brazilian nationality. I could be a Brazilian. They have the nationality of Pará, of the Kingdom of Pará.
Yeah.
That was before they joined the Brazilian republic. And I think it's a republic now. Those things, some of these things that I wrote. I mean, this is the second book that I wrote. Is Lucena.
Yeah, yeah.
Lucena, yeah. And this is more about the not Tetuan, but the Sephardim. It starts with the year 1000 and reaches the 21st century. And there is an old man, he's 1000 years old, called Lucena, which I had very much trouble to try to imagine the psychological effects of living 1000 words, 1000 years. And he's telling the story to one of great children. Yes.
Yes.
And he
I like
speaks.
this about you, Mois. This I have these pockets of writing in my own writing, especially like in The Watchmen, where I talk about. I actually use the names of my ancestral great grandparents, many of them, as characters. And there are times, especially in volume 3, where I have this almost supernatural where we are meeting. The past is in a pocket of time meeting with the future, myself, and we are connecting, because of the DNA that we share about the continuation of the Jewish people.
Yes, this is some kind of science fiction. No. What I want to say about what we talked before is that my parents and my great parents, when they spoke about the Spanish people, the Christians, they were very, very rude against them. That's what brought the Inquisition into the family. What they did to us. When I was a child, I didn't understand that, but I understood that these people were very, very, very bad people. Yes, and in Tetuan, in northern Morocco, you have at that time some kind of convivencia of the three religions. Yes, the Muslim, the Spanish, but they were very, 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 very strictly segregated. They say segregated. There was the community of the Jews, the community. There were some relations with they went to houses sometimes on some occasions, but they met on the street, and they met on the street or in the bar, in the cafeteria or something like that, or for doing business. But then everyone would go to his house, and each one will marry his own community, and they were separated, and they were seen as they were like they call them sachenim. They call it sachenim. It was a pejorative word. Sachenim is in Hebrew. It means neighbor. But the Muslims, they were called primos. We call them primos. They were cousins. Yes. Even today, I cannot see I can see the Muslims, me myself. I don't see the Muslim as goyim.
Right.
When I say goyim, I am talking about Europeans, Christians.
No, I understand. What you're talking about.
I cannot think about goyim, although we are in a war all the time.
I know.
Are fighting, but
it's a family feud.
That's one of the. Now the problem is now that we are talking. There's a lot speaking about the anti-Semitism in Spain today. Yes, and there's been work that Spain is a very. I think that Spain is a very, very, very anti-Semitic country, but the kind of completely. A lot of ignorance. You meet intellectuals in Spain who have never really had a relationship, who have never met a Jew. But the thing that happens is that there is no anti-Sephardism. So when you contact Spanish in Spain, yes, and they hear that you are Sephardi,
I know what you mean.
It's like you meet a cousin, a long lost cousin that someone spoke about him, and this is maybe that's the reason why they are so anti-Semitic, because they are descendant of Jews.
Yes,
these Spanish people in the south, especially in the south.
Yes,
and they are maybe a quarter of them are descendants of Jews. Yes, when there was this anecdotal. I presented the book Lucena in Malaga in 2000, I think, so something like that. And I said in Malaga, in southern Spain, I think that at least half of the population are descendants of Jews. And once there was one person sitting and said, "That's impossible. How can you say that?"
And let me tell
And
you, I
no.
was in there 2019.
The host asked him, "What is your name?" And he says, "Jose Munoz Caro." And we started to laugh. I mean, Caro is,
and that's
as
my
you know, Yosef Caro. I said,
and that's my family's last name, Caro. So it's like
it's Caro.
still,
Yes, Caro
yeah,
is a completely Jewish name.
Yes.
That's
and when
for
I
sure.
and when I went to Gibraltar, and I was speaking with the chief rabbi, and he asked about some of the apellidos of my family, and he said, "Ellos son judíos. These are Jewish names," and I'm like, I know. And you're not kidding. It is so pervasive in the South.
I don't know if people know. If people know in Spain, they don't
So when
know.
I
I
went
don't know
to
if they
Spain
know.
in 2019, I was in. I actually was in Malaga, right?
In Malaga, yes.
Yep, and I actually went, and I was speaking to someone there, and she had told me, and she was a resident there, lifelong resident there, Judia. And she said that there are a lot of people that do know they have this ancestry, but it's never spoken about. And
Yeah,
she said,
there was a time, I don't know if you were there was a time when they spoke about it. During the 1990s, it was popular to meet people everywhere in Spain. They would tell you, "Oh, they call me Jew. They call me Jew. They call me Jew because of my nose. My grandparents said we are Jews," but it stopped. At a certain moment, it stopped. There was something about it. It was maybe 10 years. People would tell you they're Jews. Actually, the people of Lucena, the new Lucena, the modern Lucena, and they are called Jews because it's a very prosperous city, small city, and they have a big they have a good industry, and they are rich.
yeah.
And they say they are descendant of Jews. Well, I don't know if this Lucena, the new Lucena, is related to the old Lucena, but that's an interesting thing. What happened with Lucena? And this book is they have now a special. They are in the Red de Juderias,
Yeah.
Lucena now, but the Jews were expelled from Lucena in 1149 by the Muslims.
Yeah.
By the Muslims.
Yeah. Which is a
So
whole other history.
it's a whole other history. Yes, the problem with the Muslim and the Jews. Yes, and you speak about the golden age of the Jews.
There is no golden age. That is the mamash.
No, there is a golden age, but it ended in Granada. I learned
which
this
by
way.
the way, the
In
fact that
in 1066, they killed 4,000 Jews in Granada, and that's
I wanted to
of the
bring up
golden
something
age.
that you're saying, because you're talking about the the golden age, and there was something in your book also that kind of struck me, and it said something about Moroccans who had converted as to not pay the jizya, which is the tax of the Muslim. Um, did you read that, or was that something that was well known?
There was a forced conversion of half of the community of Fez in 1605. Forced conversion, and I heard from much older people than me that they did recognize it. In Fez, they knew, like people born in the 19th century. They told me that my grandfather, he used to know this one is a converted Jew, this one is a converted Jew, and etc. They used to know that there was a lot of that is another hidden history of Morocco.
Which is why I thought this was so fascinating, because I said, Mamash, this is like the Anusim in Karebe. It's like the other side of it.
Well, there is they are Anusim, but the difference is that once you converted to Islam, you were accepted to Islam. Maybe not the first generation exactly, but you were accepted completely to Islam, and you became part of Islam, which is the big problem of the Inquisition.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem is not the expulsion; is that the Spain started to chase people who converted, and not all of them converted because they were forced. We have to admit that.
Right.
There were real conversions that
Yes.
people accepted
who accepted wholeheartedly
from the trials of Tortosa. And there always has been an attraction to Christianity in Judaism. There always has been, because, well, what is it? Christianity is Judaism, advanced Judaism.
Yeah, 2.0.
Some kind of reform. Yes, even today there are people are converted to Christianity. Christianity is very appealing for spiritual people.
Which is really ironic, and I want to tell you. So I grew up in an evangelical background, so this is not Catholic, and I think there's an important distinction to make here, because I think that by and large there's this perception in Am Yisrael that all Christianity is the same. It is not. So a lot of the support that you see for Eretz Yisrael today is coming from these same people, the same kind of sect that I kind of grew up in, which was the evangelical movement. And today they're kind of rebranding themselves as Christian Zionists, right? You may hear that term a lot. So, there was this real appeal within that movement to kind of get some kind of semblance back to Judaism. So it's ironic, because on the Jewish side, like you said, there's always been this kind of love affair, right, with Christianity. But Christianity, believe it or not, also has this love affair with Judaism, and it keeps trying. There's many people who would probably would say,
Christian actually considers itself. In the beginning, there were the real Bnei Israel. Because Bnei Israel they sinned, so they become the Israel. But a Christian, he considers himself a Jew, basically. It's a Jew. True baptism. When you baptize, you become a Jew. You become a Christian.
A completed Jew, right? So, and there's this real attraction to get Jews on board, because this is what they say, that they are completed Jews.
But in the 19th century, there is a Zionist Christian movement in Protestant communities in Europe, and there was an idea of Christians, and that would take you to a point that we are all the Jews today true Zionism, because Zionism is also a Christian movement. It's a Judeo-Christian movement,
right.
But it's also a Christian movement. The way they return, and we are all Judeo-Christianized.
Right.
All the Jews are very influenced by Christianity, and I still feel that the Judaism of Morocco, of the Sephardic, of the Mizrahi people is not completely Christianized like the Ashkenazi and Zionist and Israeli Judaism. Is very, very, very far from that.
Yeah.
And they are. I'm talking also of the religious side as well as the lay side. Yes, the Philonim. Yes.
Yes.
And this this thing starts with the Christians that the conversos that return to Judaism, and especially there's one person that is the one who creates this amalgam of it's Spinoza. Spinoza, he was excommunicated. People think that Spinoza was excommunicated because he was writing, but his writing nobody read. They were not read while he was alive. Yes, but he was excommunicated because he did Christian rituals. and that is completely logical. He's a third generation. Is the third generation of conversos. When they come back to, when they go back to Amsterdam. Yes, when they go to Amsterdam, they go back to Judaism, but
Yes.
they are already Christians.
Right.
They have to learn again what is to be a Jew. They have to learn the tefillin. They have to learn the Shabbat. They didn't do.
And
They
we
do
say
some
this in
kind of
modern
Shabbat.
time too, especially with the reboot of Arroz con Devorah.
Yes, this is
We talk
happening.
heavily
This
about
happening.
this. Yeah,
Yes,
we
this
talk
is
heavily
happening
about this.
now. This is happening now with the Russian community.
Yeah.
In Israel and abroad, and they came. That some of them they completely have become religious people. Others they are Jews, and they are Jews because the grandfather is a Jew. So they don't really fit. I mean, they are Jew because they are not Jews. I don't know.
I
No,
know.
they tell you I'm Jew because I can eat whatever I want. I mean,
Right.
this is one of the great of the great writers of Israel. What's his name? He said that to be a Jew is to eat whatever you want.
Yeah. And this was also in
In the
your book as
beginning, yeah.
well. This idea, this mentality was also like replicated in the book too. And I found it like very this was saying about Masha, it was like I really feel like your work really is something special, especially to this specific community of Jews, right? Who have this kind of history where it, the expulsion, the tentacles of the expulsion still are, they're still visible today till this day. And I want to ask you, you have a long body of work. You've been on the scene for a few decades now. When you're looking back, do you see that people are starting to get it? And are there things about your own perspective or writing that you felt with time, even over your own works, has changed?
Uh, well, there's been many changes over my work, yes,
Yeah.
but uh, in the beginning, I was writing. I was writing literature. I was also in fiction, science fiction. Some of these, as I have published, these were the books that they wouldn't publish. Yeah,
Yeah.
those weren't books about Judaism or the diaspora or that. But I think that there is what you are saying. I started to notice that with a Spanish writer called Serbendan, which sadly has not been translated. All our books are in Spanish, and I started feeling that there is some kind of Jewish Sephardi literature. Yes, that's where we met in the group. That I
Yes.
created a group of Jewish Sephardi literature,
Yes.
and it goes back. It goes back to another Bendahan. It's Blanche Bendahan, whose book has been published now in English. It's called Mazel Tov. It's a fantastic book. It's a it's a masterpiece. Now that I see it now, I read part of it, but it looked like folklore, but it is about the woman in the Sephardi world, and it's a woman that gets married with a Jew that comes from Argentina to Tetuan. He comes to Tetuan, and there's Gibraltar there already.
I'm already intrigued.
There's Gibraltar, there's Tangier, there's everything there, and this guy they used to do it. I write about it. They used to come to marry the women of Tetuan. They were very
Sought after.
very one sought after that. No, they came from Tangier, they came from Melilla, they came from Ceuta. Then the men didn't have who to marry. So the men Tetuan are known for marrying women at an old age. My father, he got married at the age of 38.
Wow.
Yeah, I have an uncle that got married at the age of 45 because there were no women.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Well,
Wow.
anyway, and she gets married. And Mazal Tov gets married with
An
a
Argentinian Jew.
Argentinian, and this Argentinians, he says, "Well, I'm going to marry." They bring him to marry, and he says there, I marry this one or the other one, the sister. They're going to marry me, one of them. I don't care. And then he leaves, and he sent her money, and he doesn't come back. He doesn't come back. He wants to give. He is willing to give him a get and to
Wow.
give her ketubah. She doesn't want to give. She doesn't accept it. She doesn't want to accept. And then this Mazal Tov, she already studied in the Alliance Israelite. She speaks French. She was in love with a French poet, and there is a very strong, very interesting description of the weddings that were at the time that my great aunt that is now 100 years old, she did of
Wow.
2 weeks. There were 2 weeks of ceremonies
Yeah.
of the wedding. Then it became 3 days. I think when my mother was 3 days. The the broom goes to the kala. The kala was there one day and this, one day and that. Each time they do encounters and they do this. Then there is the noche de paño,
Yeah.
the berberisca, and
Yeah.
it went for, and then the Shabbat Hatan, and it went for 2 weeks
Yeah.
at
Wow.
the time. I'm talking about 1950, 1950. Probably is one of the last. And she describes the Juderia before the Protectorado. So
Yeah.
it's 1903 to 1911. And the interesting thing that Mois Benarroch she was born like us. She was born in Oran, where there is a big community of
Yeah.
Sephardi community
Yeah.
in Oran, in Algeria now. She was French. Of course, she wrote in French, and she describes. It's incredible what she describes there.
Yeah.
It's an historical treasure. She and probably that's what she heard from her grandmother.
Yeah. And this is what I'm saying. I think we're in a very fascinating time where a lot of these hidden histories are starting to get unearthed and uncovered, and it is
A lot,
extremely
yes, a lot.
fascinating.
It's just too much. It's just too much. Well, what I'm saying, the Tetuan Trilogy is fiction, yes, and some of this fiction has become now history. I didn't know. Some of these things I imagined. Yeah, I imagined from talks from what my father taught me about his grandfather and things like that, and by
kind
reading.
of kind of like my historical fiction. It is it's funny. I think with my writing it was a way to blend the story with the history, with some of the hidden conversations that were had behind closed doors, and be able to present it all in a way that just told this story. And it really talked about the migration and what was happening behind the scenes with those people who were fighting against the Spanish Empire and the Inquisition. While really giving a really human, I tried as best as I could to give a human experience, right? Like, I think that all of us, I think it's fair to say that no one can say 100% what they would do if put in any situation where everything is on the line, right? And you're talking about a group of people who really, against all odds, put their lives, their families' lives, their fortunes, their reputation, like everything on the line in order to save like one other generation. And this is kind of what the Watchmen trilogy is. It is this fight against the Spanish Empire while trying to figure it out as a human being. No, but there is no manual. I think everyone that, either for not even just the big players, but for writers, for anyone who gets involved in this history, there's no manual for us, right? Like, we put the work out there, but very much like the people we're writing about or our characters, there was no manual for them, on how to save a nation, right? With who are your friends, who are your allies, and so I wanted to present something that was deeply human while telling the story of the migration and how they survived. And I'm really happy that it is resonating, but I think what makes it so successful is the timing of where we are in the history's conversation, which I'm wondering for you, it's like your books today, I think if they had debuted today, would have been probably 10 times more impactful because there is a whole real dialogue happening in real time over this history where I think before it was like it wasn't there yet. They weren't speaking about it yet. Do you find that you're getting a revival in your works now?
Maybe I influenced this talk
This
about.
writing in the movement,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. In Israel, yes, there's Aviat Moreno, who is actually writes the history behind these books, the immigrations, immigrations of northern Morocco in the 18th century. He puts it in the context of the immigration to Israel. Like there were all kinds of immigration to South America, Venezuela, Caracas is a big community, and yeah, I think, and not in Israel. I mean, in Israel, it's still the at least non-Zionists to write about it, maybe anti-Zionists to write about the diaspora.
Yeah.
The concept of Israel is destroying, is actually creating a new Jew and destroying most everything. Even I mean, even the Haredim that are the keepers of they say
The tradition.
they're the keeper, but it's completely different than the Haredim in the diaspora. They
Yeah,
are
yeah,
completely different.
yeah.
They are on the contrary, the Jew in Israel is changing the Jews in the diaspora. Yes, they and in Israel there's actually no place. There was at a certain moment there was some interest in the diaspora, but there is no place for diaspora or for the richness of the diaspora. This is new. It's a kind of a Sovietic revolution. Yes, there's
Yes.
this new man, and everything starts in 1882 with the advent of Zionism. Before that, I mean, the concept of Ben Gurion, who is very spread in the right, in the left, wherever, is there was the biblical times, and then nothing. There's nothing in the diaspora. They won't read the Talmud. The Talmud is something that has no interest for the Israeli, and then they come to Israel. Yeah, that's the problem. I don't think there were some at some time there were during the when there is peace or peace process, there's more interest on the writings
Yeah.
of non Amos Oz writing, yeah, about the greatness of the Zionists, etc., etc. And then now that there is a war, everything
It
is
stopped.
it not only stop, it is destroyed.
Yeah.
You have to build it back again and again.
Yeah. I got to tell you that I really felt that. I really felt exactly what you're saying post October 7th for sure. It was that's when, I want to say uh, it was October 7th. I think that May was my first time going to Eretz Israel. And right after that, within two
Really,
months.
May.
Yeah. So
I,
I was,
I was in May in Morocco.
yeah.
I was in May 2023. I was in Morocco, and I have not been able. I wanted to write about this trip. It was a very very interesting trip,
Yeah.
and I can't. Since then, I mean since September, since October 7, I feel like
Well, it's the
I need
irony
a
that
new
since
language.
October
I
7th,
need a new language.
yeah, so it's funny because prior to October 7th, I had only had one book. Since October 7th, I've just, volume three of the Watchmen trilogy is now book seven. I
I
was
am book seven.
so, yeah, I was so,
But then,
Mamash, I had like this fire that came in to tell this
really
story.
great. That's great.
Yeah. And I just couldn't stop. And it was like, Mamash, like I couldn't sleep because the characters were dancing in my head and I had to get it out. I had to get it out. And volume three, I think, was probably the most emotional to write because it goes back to Puerto Rico, but it is so by this point, book one was supposed to be like the short story, right? Kind of, talking about a little bit of the history, kind of talking about some of the terms, some of the punishments of the Inquisition, so that the reader can get an understanding, a foundation of what post-Inquisition life, post-expulsion life would be like. And I left it with a cliffhanger. Mamash, let's see, right? Readers started reading it, and they did want more. And I had always had this hope to tell the story of two of my grandparents, Moshe Levi and Clara Rochel, and their history. Obviously, it's a fictional account, and so volume two came out, and that started to grow. The readership started to grow. Then I said, I want to, and again, it's always tied to the history that was going on at that time. So you're talking mid 1600s, right? 100 years, a little over 100 years past the expulsion. And so now, volume three, at that point, the readership had grown to where it really had a following and people were invested in these characters. And I think as a writer, it's almost like seeing your child grow up. I don't know if you feel like that with some of your characters in your books, but they're so special to you. And so this one was very emotional. It ended with the most insane cliffhanger. And I have to say, it's like, I have to, I've taken a few months off. I released it December 26th. And I have the follow up already in my head, but it's so emotional that I have to take a step back, digest the characters and what's about to happen going forward. So it's been really
you're in a
amazing.
role. You're in a role.
I mean, right. So it's like
it's yes, I was there.
yeah.
I
And
feel
so
that
you get it. It's like
you
this
can
whole,
you cannot stop. You cannot stop writing.
and that's
They
what I
bother.
mean. It's very hard. Like I have them, and it's like if I don't, because it becomes an internal buildup, and if I don't get it out, but when I go, I just go, and it's
You
like
have to
Edward
get it out.
Scissorhands on the,
Yes, most of it I felt, and you have to get it out at a certain moment in
yes.
time.
You can't even sleep
Because
because you wake up with scenarios, and I find myself on my phone
I
recording
said that,
notes for
but
myself.
yeah, well, it's a complicated situation. If you have a family, you have
Yes.
children.
Well,
Yeah.
my children are grown. So Baruch Hashem, I
Okay.
don't have that. I
Okay.
don't have that issue, right? But and my husband, he gets it.
He
Mamash,
gets it. Yeah,
yeah,
you have to write it. These people,
yeah,
these
and it will
characters,
consume your life.
actually,
It
this
consumes your life.
character, it's the feeling that these people, this character from the ages, they ask you to be written.
Yes.
They are asking you
Yes.
to give
Yes.
them a voice. To give them a voice.
Yes. And I think what makes it more special is because they are named after real life ancestors who were really caught up in really big things in the Inquisition and in the fight against Spain. But they have, for all intents and purposes, been forgotten. And I felt like this was a way to remember not only them, but what happened, that their stories mattered. And especially the stories of the women who never made it into the books of the sanitized history and the academics. The things that happen that no one talks about are in these books. And I think that authenticity has hit home with people who come from this history because and it's not even just the ones that went into the Caribbean and South America. I'm talking, I've had people from the Sephardic world who have read the books and said, this was like reading the story of my father. And I feel like that's when like you've hit on something very special. It's a specific history, but Mamash, it's like you said, they are asking you to write it, and you feel that ancestral pull, and maybe it's in the DNA, but this is something that I felt for myself, like I could not pass on to the true world unless I did this series.
Yeah. Okay, though you know, I was thinking again about Blanche Bendan. The first edition of Mazal Tov was published. She won a prize from the l'Académie Française in 1930, and it was I think it was not very accepted by the Jewish community, not in Algeria or not in Morocco, although because it's an incredible thing in 1930 writing about the women, the women
Yes,
of Tetuan.
yes,
And maybe I think that the community saw it criticizing the Jews, but it's not. She's very loving of her characters.
yes.
She
They do feel like your children. They feel like your children, Mamash. They do. They really do feel like your children.
yeah, but the thing is that the westernized women, like they see it as a criticism of how the men, everything is now how the men treated the women. He
Yeah,
left her, and
yeah,
it's not in the book. It's not in
yeah,
the book. It's
yeah.
the way it's more centered about the women, or the relationship between women also, and maybe it's a good idea that you do a program about this book.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you that, Mamash, I am open um, to uncovering a lot of authors that are specific in this area of Sephardic writing, because I think it is a history that is,
No, when we talk about Sephardic, yeah, the Sephardic literature is that there is a Sephardic literature of writers in South America, in Spain, in France, in the United States, like Ruth Knafoseton, The Road to Fez. I don't know if you read it. Also
no.
about it's about
You've given me a
that
whole like reading list off of this
there is
conversation.
Eduardo Jalfón. Eduardo Jalfón is Nicaraguan, I think, or
Yeah,
Guatemala. There are writers. They discovered there are writers. There's a poet Ben Arroz in the beginning of the 20th century in the Argentina. Argentina. There is Isaac Chocron in Venezuela. Although some of them do not write specifically about the Jews or the situation of the Jews, but there is some kind. There is also the Serbo-Croatian, the Yugoslavian, Danilo Kish or Al-Bahari also there was a translator in Israel that translated the works of this guy. He's in Canada, Al-Bahari. Were quite Danilo Kish. He was quite popular in the 1980s. He died very young also, and of course in Israel there is a big community of writers who write about Mizrahi, Sephardi, and the communities, and there is a line between the the way this is written. I think there is a line. I mean, there is I think it's a subject for a good PhD.
yeah, yes.
The Sephardic
And
literature.
I know that there's a lot of research happening about the conversos that were over on this side of the aisle, if you will. And I'm very excited. I'm excited for the time that we live in with respect to this history, because I feel like there is an openness and an awareness that there is a lot of lost information coming from a lot of areas. And I think people are really open to exploring that. So I would love to hear, we're going to close out the show, but I really would love to hear your thoughts as someone who has been in this for quite a while. as to the direction of Sephardic literature and where you hope it goes to, and if you have any new works that are coming out.
Well, I published last year. Well, I'm not writing a lot this time, but I'm publishing a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they came. I have a good publisher. He gets supports from all kind of foundations, and this is a kind of memoir. Obsessia של צרפתי, Tsarfati's obsession. Here it is
Yes.
in English.
That's on my reading to-do list now.
Yeah, well, this covers the years 2010 and 2012. Also, that I was. It's more about also the literary prize, the Yehuda Amichai Poetry Prize that was received in 2012, and how it happened also. And then there's also a book of poems that I published in 2025, and I worked a lot on translations. And this is my septology. We didn't speak out of the septology. This is Amora Exilios that was published in 2010 in Spain in a small publisher called Escalera.
Yeah.
Very good edition.
You know what else of your writings is on my to read list? Bufanda Blues.
Bufanda Blues, yes. Bufanda Blues it is Bufanda Blues. I like very much.
I love the name. I love the title alone. Like.
Yes, there is there about Paketia and that Bufanda Blues, and it's interesting. It's translated into English by a Ladino scholar.
Yes.
It's called the Brown Scarf Blues in English, and Stephen Capsuto. It's a very, very good translation. Yes, it speaks also about Ladino, Haketia, and it's about this. I haven't been in Spain since 2010. There was an encounter of Hispano-Judíos. They made a few encounters by Casa Sepharad Israel, which is affiliated to the foreign ministry in Spain. It's called Casa Sepharad Israel. And they did about Moroccans, Hispano-Judíos all over the world. And then there I met the Brazilians, Jews that... It was very, very exciting to meet these people that were disconnected for years. Almost were crying. There were Moroccan Jews from Venezuela, from Argentina, from often these Jews are the first communities in South America, and then come in Argentina and all the Ottomans. First, they come the Moroccan Jews, Tetuan, especially Tetuan, because Tetuan is they want new communities. They want to create new communities.
Yeah.
Why? Because according to the halacha, if you go to an old community, you have to follow the rituals, especially the kashrut. So they created new communities in Brazil, and new communities in Argentina, and new communities in Venezuela, in Caracas, also in Maracaibo, I think. And this is Bufanda Blues, and that
I'm
was
really
published.
excited
That is completely an independent venture. I published myself.
Good for you. Well, see, this is what I mean. Now there's like a whole, you can get everything that they said, no, we can't do that. You can get it out now. And there's like,
you can get it. That's what I said. I worked with AI to translate many of my books last year.
Yeah.
Amori Exilios is now in English complete. Some of it was translated by translators, and part of it I translated with AI. Is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, for translation, if you want to translate, you need to have a certain level of the
You
translator
definitely have to have a lot of technical
language.
knowledge. Well, I
Not so
want to
much in
say,
translate. It's you have to edit it. Yes, but
yes,
you have to know the Spanish. If you have a level of
yes,
Spanish that can do it, you can do it. But and French, I also translated into French, Spanish, and something. And the Tsarfati obsession, I translated into English.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm excited to read. You've given me a whole list of to read out of this interview. I want to thank you so much for coming on. It has been such a pleasure and an honor to speak with you. I hope this is not the last time we will speak to each other. I want to encourage everyone. I'm going to leave a link in the description box of many of Mois's works and where you can connect with him. I want to thank you so much for coming on today, Mois. Do you have
and that
any parting words?
everything is available on Amazon.
On Amazon, correct.
Everything. It's available in
And
many
on
other places,
Audible.
but
And on
yeah,
Audible. So if you are
there
interested
is
in
Audible of many books in English, Spanish, and French.
yes. So Moise, thank you so much for coming on. It has been a
Thank
pleasure and an
you,
honor.
Deborah Esther.
Yes, and
Yes.
like I said, look into the description box. You'll find all of the links there to where you can get these books. Once again, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for tuning in with us.